Hello, hello, YouTube. How are you doing this evening? I am catching up because my husband surprised me on Friday. Buddy, lay down, and took me away, and we got to spend some time with some friends I haven't seen in over 10 years for his birthday, and it was just such a good time. And so I did not have service on Saturday to hop on here and read, and so I had a friend take over for me on Facebook, and I had every intention to hop on Saturday evening to do our YouTube live and was not able to make it. So I do apologize. I am making it up now. And, I get to give myself grace that things happen. And it was such an amazing time. My husband literally came home from work, swooped me off my feet and spun me around, which is not something I get to experience often. So it was such a huge blessing for me. And then he took me on an adventure, which was amazing. And I was just so wrapped up in the moment, so in awe, that I forgot everything. So it was an amazing time and an amazing weekend with my hubby. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. I'm going to share this a couple places, and then we will get started. So, and my boys are a little antsy tonight, so I apologize in advance. There. Okay, and so we are reading 42 through 46 today, and I hope that that's what I put in. Let's see here, yeah, 42 through 46. Perfecto. Make sure I shared this to Facebook correctly. Alrighty. So let me go ahead and we're going to pray and then we will get started. If you're jumping on live, I see a few viewers. Say hello. Let me know who you are. I'm just excited that you're joining me this evening. So let's go ahead and pray and get started. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for today, Lord. I just thank you for this weekend and just meeting us where we're at. Through the good and the bad, Father, you are with us, guiding us through these storms. Even when it seems so dark, Lord, that you are the light in the darkness. And we get to rest in your presence and know that we will too get through these storms. And Father, I just ask that you just be with us today as we read your word. Open our hearts to receive what you have for us, and that we fine tune and listen to what it is you have for us today. Open our ears to listen, and just be present with you right here, right now, and in the moment. And I pray this in your precious and holy name. I pray. Amen. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Sarah. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited you joined me on YouTube tonight. I know. I hope if you did get to watch with Janine on Saturday, I hope it was good. I'm going to read the chapters that I was supposed to read on Saturday tonight. So I'm so excited you're here. So we're going to read starting in chapter 37, and I'm hoping my dog does not try to shut me off because he is very needy this evening. Okay, so chapter 37. No, we're not on 37. We already read 37. We're on chapter 42. Wow, I guess I have to turn to the right page. This is fun. All right. Chapter 42, we are talking about when Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. So when Jacob learned that there was food in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you sit around here and look at one another? I've heard that there is food in Egypt. Go down there and buy some so that we can survive and not starve to death." 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to Egypt to get food. Jacob didn't send Joseph's brother Benjamin with them. He was afraid that something bad might happen to him. So Israel's son joined everyone else that was going to Egypt to buy food for Canaan. Too, it was hard by the famine. When Joseph was running to the country, he was the one who gave out rations to all the people. When Joseph's brothers arrived, they treated him with honor, bowing to him. Joseph recognized them immediately, but treated them as strangers and spoke roughly to them. He said, "Where do you come from?" "From Canaan," they said. "We've come to buy food." Joseph knew who they were, but they didn't know who he was. Joseph, remembering the dreams he had dreamed of them, said, "You're spies. You've come to look for our weak spots." "No, master," they said. "We've only come to buy food. We're all the sons of the same man. We're honest men. We'd never think of spying." He said, "No, you're spies. You've come to look for our weak spots." They said, "There were 12 of us brothers, sons of the same father in the country of Canaan. The youngest is with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said, "It's just as I said, you're spies. This is how I'll test you. As Pharaoh lives, you're not going to leave this place until your younger brother comes here. Send one of you to go get your brother while the rest of you stay here in jail. We'll see if you're telling the truth or not. And Pharaoh lives, I say you're spies." When he threw them into jail for 3 days, on the third day Joseph spoke to them. "Do this and you'll live. I am a God-fearing man. If you're as honest as you say you are, one of your brothers will stay here in jail while the rest of you take the food back to your hungry families. But if you have to bring your youngest brother back to me, confirming the truth of your speech, and not one of you will die." They agreed. Then they started talking amongst themselves. "Now we're paying for what you did to our brother. We saw how terrified he was when he was begging us for mercy. We wouldn't listen to him, and now we're the ones in trouble." Reuben broke in. Didn't I tell you, don't hurt the boy? But no, you wouldn't listen, and now we're paying for his murder." Joseph had been using an interpreter, so they didn't know that Joseph was understanding every word. Joseph turned away from them and cried. When he was able to speak again, he took Simon and had him tied up, making a prisoner of him while they all watched. Then Joseph ordered that their sacks be filled with grain and their money be put in each sack, and that they are given rations for the road. That was all done for them, and they loaded their food supplies on their donkeys and set off. When they stopped for the night, one of them opened the sack of food and for his donkey. There was a mouth of his bag was his money. He called out to his brothers, "My money has been returned. It's right here in my bag." They were puzzled and frightened. "What's God doing to us?" Then they came back to their father Jacob, back to the land of Canaan, and told him everything that had happened, saying, The man who runs the country spoke to us roughly and accused us of being spies. We told him we were honest men and in no way spies. There were 12 of us brothers, sons of one father. One is gone, and the youngest is with her father in Canaan. But the master of the country said, Leave one of your brothers with me. Take the food to your starving families, and go bring your youngest brother back to me, providing that you're honest men and not spies. And then I'll give your brother back to you, and you'll be free to come and go in this country. And they were emptying their food sacks. Each man came on the purse of money. On seeing their money, they and their father were upset. Their father said to them, You're taking everything I've got. Joseph gone, Simon's gone, and now you want to take Benjamin? If you have your way, I'll be left with nothing. Reuben spoke up. But I'll put my 2 sons in your hands as hostages. If I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill them. Trust me with Benjamin. I'll bring him back. But father refused. My son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he is all I have left. If something bad happens to him on the road, you'll put my gray, sorrowing head in the grave. 43. The famine got worse, and they had eaten all the food they had brought back from Egypt. Their father said, Go back and get some more food. But Judah said, The man warned us emphatically, You won't so much as see my face if you don't have your brother with you. If you're ready to release our brother to go with us, we'll go down and get you food. But if you're not ready, we're not going. What would be the use? The man told us, You won't so much as see my face if you don't have your brother with you. Israel said, Why are you making my life so difficult? Why did you ever tell the man you had another brother? They said, The man pressed us hard. He asked pointing questions about our family. And if your father is your father alive? Do you have another brother? And so we answered his questions. How did we know he'd say, Bring your brother here? Judah pushed his father, Israel. Let the boy go, and I'll take charge of him. Let's go and be on our way. If we don't get going, we are all going to starve to death. We and you and our children too. I'll take full responsibility of his safety. It's my life on the line for his. If I don't bring him back and safe and sound, I'm the guilty one. I'll take all the blame. If he had gone ahead in the first place instead of procrastinating like this, we would have been here and back twice over. Their father, Israel, cave in, and if it is to be, it has to be. But do this, stuff your packs with the finest products from the land you can find, and take them to the man as gifts. Some balm and honey, some spices and perfumes, some pistachios and almonds. And take plenty of money, pay back double of what you're returned to your sacks. It might have been a mistake. Take your brother and get going. Go back to the man, and may the strong God give you grace in the man's eyes that he'll send back your brother along with Benjamin. For me, for nothing, I've lost everything. The men took the gifts, double the money, and Benjamin. They lost no time in getting to Egypt and meeting Joseph. When Joseph saw that they had Benjamin with him, he told his house steward, Take these men into the house and make them a home. Butcher an animal and prepare a meal. These men are going to eat with me at noon. The steward did what Joseph had said and took them inside. But they became anxious when they were brought into Joseph's home, thinking it's the money. He thinks we ran off with the money on our trip home down here. And now he's got us where he wants us. He's going to turn us into slaves and compensate our donkeys. So they went up to Joseph's house steward and talked to him in the doorway. They said, Listen, master, we came down here one other time to buy food, and on the way the first night we opened our bags and found our money in the mouth of the bag, the exact amount we paid. We brought it all back and have plenty more to buy food with. We have no idea who put the money in our bags." The steward said, "Everything's in order, don't worry. Your God and the God of your father must have given you a bonus." It was paid in full, and with that he presented Simon to them. They then took them to Joseph's house and made them comfortable, gave them water and washed their feet, and saw the feeding of their donkeys. Their brothers spreading out the gifts as they waited for Joseph to show up at noon. And they had been told that would they were to have dinner with him. When Joseph got home, he presented him with the gifts, and they brought and bowed respectfully before him. Joseph welcomed them and said, "And your old father, whom you mentioned to me, how is he? Is he still alive?" They said, "Yes, your servant, our father, is quite well, very much alive." And they again bowed respectfully before him. When Joseph picked out his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son, he asked, "And you're the youngest brother that you told me about?" He said, "God be gracious to you, my son." Deeply moved in seeing his brother, and about burst into tears, Joseph hurried into the other room and had a good cry. He then washed his face, got a grip of himself, and said, "Let's eat." Joseph was served at his private table. Your brothers off by themselves, and the Egyptians off by themselves. Egyptians won't eat at the same table with Hebrews, but repulsive. It's repulsive to them. The brothers were seated facing Joseph, arranged in order of their age, the oldest to the youngest, and they looked at one another wide open, wondering what was to happen next. When the brothers' plates were served from Joseph's table, Benjamin's plate came piled high, far more than his brothers, and so his brothers feasted with Joseph, drinking freely. Joseph ordered his house steward, "Fill the men's bag with food, all they can carry, and replace each one's money on top of the bag, and then put my my silver chalice, in the top of the bag of the youngest, along with the money for his food." He did as Joseph ordered. At break of day, the men were sent off with their donkeys. They were bearing out to the city when Joseph said to his house steward, "Run after them. When you catch up with them, say, 'Why did you pay me back? Why did you pay me back evil for good? This is the chalice my master drinks from. He also used for divination. This is outrageous.'" He caught up with them and then repeated all the words for word. They said, "What is my master talking about? We would never do anything like that. Why, the money we found in our bags earlier we brought back all the way from Canaan. Do you think we'd turn right around and steal back from your master? If that chalice is found in any of us, he'll die, and the rest of us will be your master's slaves." And the steward said, "Very well, then. We won't go that far. Whoever is found with the chalice may be my slave. The rest of you can go free." And they outdid each other and put their bags on the ground, opening them up with inspection. And the steward searched their bags, going from oldest to youngest, and the chalice showed up in Benjamin's bag. They ripped their clothes off in despair, loaded their donkeys, and went back to the city. Joseph was still at home when Judah and his brothers got back. They threw themselves down on the ground in front of him. Joseph accused them. "How can you have done this? You have to know that the man in my position would have discovered this." Judah, as a spokesperson for his brothers, said, "What can we say, master? What is it there to say? How can you prove your innocence? God is behind this, exposing how bad we are. We're all in this together. The rest of us is guilty as the one with the chalice." "I'd never do that to you," said Joseph. "Only the one involved with the chalice will be my slave. The rest of you are free to go back to your father." Judah came forward and said, "Please, master, can I say just one thing to you? Don't get angry. Don't think I'm presumptuous. You're the same as Pharaoh as far as I'm concerned. You, master, asked, 'Do you have a father and a brother?' And we answered honestly, 'We have a father who is old and a younger brother who was born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only son left from that mother. And his father loved him more than anything. And when you told us, 'Bring him down here so I can see him,' we told you, master, that was impossible. The boy can't leave his father, and if he leaves, his father will die. And then you said, 'If your youngest brother doesn't come with you, you won't be allowed to see me.' And when we returned to our father, we told him everything you said to us. And so our father said, 'Go back and buy some more food.' We told him flatly, 'We can't. The only way we can go back is if our youngest brother is with us. And we weren't allowed to even see the man if our youngest brother doesn't come with us. Your servant, my father, told us, 'You know very well that my wife gave me 2 sons. One turned up missing.' I concluded that he'd been ripped to pieces. I've never seen him since, and if you go and take this one and something bad happens to him, you'll put my old gray grieving head in the graves for sure. And now can't you see that if I show up before your servant, my father, without the boy, the son whom his life is so bound up, the moment he realizes the boy is gone, he'll die on the spot. He'll die of grief, and we your servants who are standing here before you will have killed him. And that's not all. I got my father to release the boy and show him to you, promising if I don't bring him back, I'll stand condemned before you, Father, all my life. So let me stay here as your slave, not this boy. Let him go back with his brothers, so I can go back to my father with the boy. The boy is not with me. Oh, don't make me go back and watch my father die in grief." Chapter 5. What are you eating, buddy? My dog is literally biting off his fingernails. That's disgusting. Sorry. Okay, chapter 45. Joseph couldn't hold him in any longer. Keeping up front before all of his attendants, he cried out, "Leave, clear out, everyone leave." So there was no one with Joseph, and he identified himself to his brothers. But his sobbing was violent that the Egyptians couldn't help but hear him. The news was so reported to Pharaoh's place. Joseph spoke to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father really alive?" But his brothers couldn't say a word. They were speechless. They couldn't believe what they were hearing and seeing. "Come closer to me," Joseph said to his brothers. They came closer. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But don't feel badly. Don't blame yourselves for selling me. God was behind it. God sent me here ahead of you to save lives. There has been a famine in the land, and now for 2 years. Then the famine will continue for 5 more years, neither plowing nor harvesting. God sent me on ahead to pave the way and make sure there was a remnant in the land to save your lives in an amazing act of deliverance. So you see, if it wasn't you who sent me here, but God, he sent me in the place as father to Pharaoh, put me in charge of his personal affairs, and made me a ruler of Egypt. Hurry back to my father. Tell him, your son Joseph says, I am master of all Egypt. Come as fast as you can and join me here. I'll give you a place to live in Goshen, where you'll be closer to me, you, your children, and your grandchildren, your flocks, your herds, and everything else you can think of. I'll take care of you there completely. There are still 5 more years of the famine ahead. I'll make sure all of your needs are taken care of and everyone connected with you, and you won't want for a thing. Look at me. You can see for yourselves, and my brother Benjamin can see for himself that it's me, my own mouth, telling you all of this. Tell my father about the high position I hold in Egypt. Tell him everything you've seen here, but don't take all day. Hurry up and get my father down here." Then Joseph threw himself on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. Benjamin wept on his neck, and then kissed all of his brothers and wept over them. Only then his brothers able to talk to him. The story was reported to Pharaoh's place. Joseph's brothers have come. It's good news to Pharaoh and all who worked with him. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, this is the plan. Load up your pack animals, go to Canaan, get your father and your families, and bring him back here. I'll settle you on the best land in Egypt. You'll live off the fat of the land." Also tell him this: "Here's what I want you to do. Take wagons from Egypt to carry little ones and your wives, and load your father and come back. Don't worry about having to leave things behind. The best of all Egypt will be yours." And they did just that, and the sons of Israel. Joseph gave the wagons that Pharaoh had promised and food for the trip. He outfitted all the brothers in brand new clothes and gave Benjamin 300 pieces of silver and several suits of clothes. He sent his father these gifts: 10 donkeys loaded with Egypt's best products, and other 10 donkeys loaded with grain and bread, provisions for his father's journey back. He then sent his brothers off, and they left. He told them, "Take it easy on the journey. Try to get along with each other." They left Egypt and went back to their father Jacob in Canaan. They told him, "Joseph is still alive. He's the ruler over the whole land in Egypt." He went numb and he couldn't believe his ears. But the more they talked, telling him everything that Joseph had told them, and they went and saw in the wagons that Joseph had sent them to carry him back. The blood started to flow again. Their father's Jacob's spirit revived. Israel said, "I've heard enough. My son Joseph is still alive. I've got to go and see him before I die." Chapter 46. Buddy, lay down, please. So Israel set out on the journey with everything he owned. He arrived at Beersheba. He worshipped, offering sacrifices to God of his father Isaac. God spoke to Israel in a vision that night. "Jacob, Jacob." "Yes," he said, "I'm listening." God said, "I am the God of your father. Don't be afraid of going down to Egypt. I'm going to make you a great nation there. I'll go to you down to Egypt. I'll go bringing you back here. And when you die, Joseph will be with you. With his own hand, he'll close your eyes." Then Jacob left Beersheba. Israel's son loaded their father and their little ones and their wives on the wagons Pharaoh had sent him to carry him. They arrived in Egypt with the livestock and wealth, and they had accumulated in Canaan. Jacob brought everyone in his family with him, sons and grandsons, daughters and granddaughters, everyone. These are the names of the Israelites, Jacob and his descendants, who went to Egypt. Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Reuben's son, Hashak, Palak, Hezron, and Chemri. Simon's sons, Jumal, Jemin, Odad, Jachin, Zor, and Shaul, the son of Canaanite women. Levi's sons, Gerash, Kohath, and Merari. Judah's sons, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zeren. And Onan already had died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. Israel's sons were Tala, Pra, Josh, and Sherman. Julian's sons were Shed, Elon, and Jezeel. These are the sons of Leah, born to Jacob in Padan Aram. There was also a daughter, Dinah. Together, sons and daughters, they numbered 33. Gad's sons were Ephan, Haggai, Sun, Ebzan, Eri, and Ardani, and Ariel. Asher's sons were Imnah, Ishvi, and Bari, and their sisters Sari and Berizai, sons of Heber and Michal. These are the children of Zephi, the maid of Laban, gave to his daughter Leah bore to Jacob, 16 of them. The sons of Jacob's wives Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. Joseph was the father of 2 sons, Messai and Ephraim, from the marriage of Esther, the daughter of Pasira, priest of On. They were born to him in Egypt. Benjamin's sons were Bela, Becher, Eshbel, Gera, Nenan, Rosh, Mopin, Huppim, and Ard. These are the children born to Jacob through Rachel, 14. Dan's sons, Hishkim. Naphtali's sons, Jezel, Guni, Jezer, and Shilem. These are the sons born to Jacob. Though Bela, the maid of Laban, had given to his daughter Rachel 7, summing up all of those who went down to Egypt with Jacob, his own children, not counting the sons' wives, numbered 66. Counting in the 2 sons born to Joseph in Egypt, the members of Jacob's family who ended up in Egypt, the numbered 70. Jacob sent Judah on ahead to get directions to Goshen from Joseph. When they got to Goshen, Joseph gave orders for his chariots and went to Goshen to meet his father Israel. The moment Joseph saw him, he threw himself on his neck and wept. He wept a long time. Israel said to Joseph, "I'm ready to die. I've looked into your face. You're indeed alive." Joseph then spoke to his brothers and his father's family. "I'll go and tell Pharaoh, my brothers and my father's family, in whom lived in Canaan, have come to me, the men of shepherds. They've always made their living by raising livestock, and they've brought their flocks and herds for them, along with everything else they own. When Pharaoh calls you and asks what kind of work you'll do, you'll tell him, your servants have always kept livestock for as long as they can remember, we as our parents also. That way he'll let you stay a part of the area in Goshen, for the Egyptians look down on anyone who is a shepherd." And that's the end of 46. And we get to start on 47 tomorrow, which is exciting. And then there was the questions this week, which I will be completely honest, I have not filled out my questions yet, so we can do them together. Sarah, have you answered your questions yet? The first question says, God asked Abraham to offer his son Isaac as a sacrifice. Abraham obeyed and walked in faith, even though God promised him descendants through Isaac. How can this encourage your faith? What did you say, Sarah? Did you have something to say for that one? I think for me, it was just the obedience, the fact that there was no question, although like he knew in his heart that, God promised him Isaac was going to bring him, this big promise. He did it anyway. And then the lamb came, which I find just so amazing, that childlike faith to just believe and act in obedience, even when you don't understand. I'm doing that right now. It was so, look at my cute little boy sleeping. It was so hard for me to just go and spend time with friends and family and know that I had already made a commitment, but I got to make those arrangements to be present with my family yesterday and my friends on Friday night. And even today I got to be present with my husband, and the blessings that came out of that, the conversations that were had. My husband and I are taking steps into starting our family in a very big way. And that takes a lot of commitment and dedication and trust that God's got his hand in all this. And we're having to make sacrifices in places I never could have imagined. So that's what that first question really meant to me, is like having that faith and acting in obedience with God, and just that belief that all is going to be well, even in the midst of uncertainty and trials. If you have anything, Sarah, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Esau, so number 2 is Esau gave up his birthright for food. His flesh overtook him, and he was willing to give up his inheritance. Our inheritance is eternal. Is there a hidden sin in your life or areas you are giving into the flesh that can rob you of your inheritance? And are you ready to give them up? This is hard for me because I know that our inheritance is eternal. And right now, if I'm being like raw and really honest with y'all, there are a few things that I get to give up. I get to give up selfishness, and that may sound really like high level, superficial. Awesome. I'm glad you're doing it later tonight, Sarah. If you've wanted, send them to me if you want, and we can talk about them. That's great. If you want to keep them to yourself, that's cool too. But like, so our inheritance, is eternal. And like, is there a hidden sin in your life? I think for me, the sin is that selfishness and that like selfish desire. Like my husband and I, anger for sure too. So like my husband and I can selfishly want time with him or want physical touch or want him to answer me when he's mad. And instead of giving him space and instead of giving him time, I press and press and press selfishly till he bombards and bursts with anger. And then he doesn't feel seen or heard. And then that puts me in a spot where then I am angry and I am saying hateful and hurtful things to him. And it just becomes this domino effect, right? Yeah, Sarah. So like, it's just hard because it's like we are sinners, right? We are selfish. We have our flesh, we have our wants, and we all come from different spaces. We all come from different situations and unhealthy boundaries. And we get to learn those new healthy boundaries. So I think the biggest thing for me is learning to lead more like Jesus in my family and in my home and giving myself grace. I really struggle with memory and anxiety and depression, and not so much depression anymore as like anxiety and like fear of disappointment. Definitely fear of disappointment. I'm always afraid that I'm going to disappoint my husband. And or disappoint my friends or disappoint somebody who's in the same room as me, that I never realized it until yesterday, that I tend to storytell, if you will, sometimes in a way that benefits myself without thinking about how it can make my husband feel. For instance, I was so like taken back and like overjoyed and like a giddy schoolgirl. My husband come home Friday night, like I mentioned earlier, picks me up, spins me around, kisses on me, and is hugging me. He took a picture with me. Like, it sounds so little, but he took a picture with me. And he doesn't like his picture taken. And he did all of these things for me that I was so wrapped up in the moment that I forgot my purse. We were going out to dinner, and then we were on our way out to dinner, and he says, I really want to go see our friend. It's his birthday weekend. And I said, yeah, let's go. I said, why don't we just go now? Why don't let's not go all the way down to Grand Rapids, which is like an hour out of our way and then 3 hours north. So why don't we just go now? Can have lunch on the way. And it didn't even click to me that I didn't have my purse. I didn't have my clothes. I didn't have all these things. And so as I'm sharing this with our friends that I haven't seen in 10 plus years, I'm like, yeah, my husband just took me on an adventure and I didn't have anything. And to them, it seemed like I was ungrateful and that my husband was just this horrible person and that he did all these things. But in reality, I was sharing because I was so grateful and so happy that my husband just swept me off my feet and I forgot. How cool is that I forgot that I was just taken on this adventure of just a spontaneous adventure. And so for me, it's just learning how to speak in a way that honors my husband more and better, because to my husband, when I was saying those things, he didn't feel honored. He felt like he forced me in that situation, which he didn't do it by any means. My husband felt like what he did, I didn't appreciate. And it was so sad because I appreciated it more than anything because I never get that from my husband. And so I hope that's an encouragement to you that sometimes when we sit in anxiety and we tend to have this fear over us, we don't think before we speak. And how important it is to take into consideration the context in which you're speaking and the tone in which you're speaking, because it maybe wasn't the right time to say those things. And so reading the room, which is something that I don't know how to do all the time. And so it was a really big awakening for me. Number 3, it says, Jacob wrestled with God and walked away with a limp. This limp was a physical reminder of humility before God. Are there things in your life that has used you to keep walking in humility before him? I think that this just ties into what I just shared. Like, I get to walk in humility. Like, if I'm being honest, Sarah, since it's just you and I hanging out here tonight, I get to have a hard conversation with my doctor on Wednesday. All of this that happened, my husband and I had this conversation about my memory. I know it's a trauma related, it's a trauma response that I have, but I struggle with remembering what my husband says to me or how my husband would prefer I respond to him, or if he says something that, I should be keeping because of my anxiety and because of like trauma response. My brain doesn't keep up with remembering those things. And so I get to have a hard conversation with my doctor on Wednesday about memory. And I just find that is just very humbling that my husband and I were to have that deep conversation, to say that I get to say, Dr. Judy, I'm having these issues and I've had these issues for a long time, because she knows I've had these issues, but I'm not coming to you to ask for medication. I'm asking you for memory building activities. How can I strengthen my brain? How can we build this so that way my husband doesn't come to resent me or think that less of me? Because this is tiring. This isn't something my husband wants to deal with for the rest of his life. He doesn't want to have to constantly be telling me, did you eat dinner today? Did you eat lunch today, Savannah? Did you brush your teeth? Did you remember that I had this appointment set for you? I had a hair appointment set for Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and I forgot all about it. And because we were on the other side of the state, I had no idea. I forgot. And it wasn't until we were on our way home hours later that I realized I missed my appointment. And so now I have to pay. I've got to pay a hefty fee for being a no call, no show. And so I find that very humbling that I get to start having these conversations. Exactly, Sarah, how to strengthen the memory. Yeah, I'd love to know, how you've, some of the conversations or questions that, yeah, I'll definitely share her answers. Yeah, I try to set reminders on my phone, and then I'm really good at ignoring the reminders. And like I even have my calendar. So I started, I don't know if you could see it. So I started filling out my calendar of all the things I have to do. And then I get to do this tonight where I get to fill out my day, and it's by hour. So I'm going to really try to do that. So it'll be interesting. Thanksgiving. I understand what you meant. we get to be in Thanksgiving for each other, right? Gotta love autocorrect. Yeah, and that's true. My therapist always says to write a list. And I write that list, but then I'm really good at misplacing my list. Um or just getting lost in my time. And so I get to learn to stop making excuses and start really getting things done. I love that, Sarah. I love it. I love it. I love it. Maybe we can hold each other accountable this week in some things we have to do. I would love that. Question 4. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own family. After many years, God prospered him and placed him in a position to bless the same family. What lesson can you personally take from this? I think for me, it revolves back to even the beginning questions, that obedience. He walked in obedience with God, even in the midst of that trial, even in the midst of a horrible situation that he was sold into that by his brothers. His brothers faked his death, came to the land of Egypt, not realizing, because his brother was grown up, realizing that that was still his brother. And God blessed him through that, and he was able to see his dad again before he died. And I look forward to finishing out the story this week of that. Like, so beautiful. I'll message you, Sarah, tomorrow morning. So I'll be looking for a message from me tomorrow morning. And we'll connect and see how we can hold each other accountable this week. But that's what I got out of that, is that even I look at it as me right now, from July, the end of July, when I went into the Fear into Faith conference, to now, I have been walking in complete obedience with what Christ has for me and my family in this season and what he's doing. And there has been weeks and days where I'm just feeling like I don't want to get going, like I don't want to finish. There has been, even just recently, my husband and I had to have some hard conversations because we're in the middle of starting a church with some friends. Our next door neighbors are pastors of this church that they're planting, and we're helping that. And God has just been guiding all of that. And we had to have some hard conversations with them yesterday and say, hey, look, we have some training classes that are taking place on Sundays from 1 to 8. We are not going to be able to attend church in person this month. And that was hard for us. And then in our obedience, God turned around and blessed us and is now allowing us to go to church on opening launch Sunday. We get to enjoy our opening launch Sunday at church with our fellowship, even when we thought we didn't get to do that. Isn't that amazing? God is amazing. When we completely step out in faith, not understanding what that next step is, we are just taking one step in front of the other. What's that song? One step in front of the other. I don't know the lyrics, but it's a kid's song. And so we just get to take that one step in front of the other in trust and in faith. I almost envision like this black tunnel. When I was in 2017, I was part of a discipleship program called Christian Training Center International, or the Inn of Last Resort. And what we did during this internship that summer is we walked into this dark tunnel, pitch black. And I'm scared of the dark. I've got a lot of fears and things that I've been working through. And we had to walk in this pitch black tunnel, one foot in front of the other, not seeing where we're going, not knowing what we're doing, one foot in front of the other. I had a mental breakdown. I didn't think I was going to make it through. I couldn't move. And so we get to take one step in front of the other, not seeing where we're going, but putting our full faith and trust in God, our full faith and trust in God in all things with Him. And so that is what I took out of these journal questions. And I hope that blessed you. And if you have any questions or anything, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. And we can do that. There is something that we get to do this week, and that's the letter. So you get to write a letter to God. So pray and then write a letter to God and then pray again. And I encourage you to put on some like instrumental music and just let God reply to you. And if you're not sure how to do this, reach out, send me a message, and let's get on a call and do it together. So I love y'all. Many blessings. And I get to go to sleep. I hear my husband still in the other room, so he's still awake. So I get to go love on him and go to sleep with him. And I'll be up early. I think he leaves the house at 2:30 in the morning. So I'll be up early at 2:30 in the morning. So I get to get some sleep right now. And I love y'all. And Sarah, I will talk to you first thing in the morning. Good night and have a beautiful and blessed evening.